Peace be with you. Welcome to the Institute of All Intelligent Life. My name is Muhammad Kartar Puri, also known as Allan Keislar. And I began this chat again and again, more than ever before, much more, at least 30 times in the space of 15 or 20 minutes, it seemed. So I restarted it on Khadija Zahid's excellent suggestion, because it looks like I am not able to go live at all now. So I was reading from the different scriptures, and I will just quickly trying to find where that piece of paper is on which, okay, here we go. Today from the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, some sing of his glorious virtues, greatness, and beauty. So, wonderful statement where the prophet Moses, peace be upon him, is speaking to Pharaoh and said to him, this is the 22nd verse of Surah. So I think Moses is here indirectly telling Pharaoh, you're accusing me of having killed a man, as if that's something horrible, but you yourself have enslaved and, of course, killed who knows how many thousands or millions of the sons of the Israelites who had been enslaved by the Egyptians. So this is what we see in the world today also. Leaders are in so many capacities, but they simply point the finger at somebody else. Wherever the Spirit would go, they went, and the wheels rose along with them, for the spirit of the living creatures was in the wheel, within the wheels. So as I commented in the last start of this chat, this was an amazing step, back-engineered, or with the help of extraterrestrials. They had created what we now call flying saucers, and they were, they were copied by, or many of those German scientists were taken to the United States after the end of the Second World War, and they developed the American space program, which also remained secret until the amazing thing about this verse is that it is well known to those who have studied the secret space program and are familiar with the extraterrestrial craft that were back-engineered by the Americans. This craft, or some of them, they appear to be conscious beings. The craft themselves appear to be conscious beings. They appear to be inhabited by the spirit, by maybe the spirit of the pilot or the spirit of the... So that is what I commented on this verse in Ezekiel, and then we came to the Dhammapada, and again. So I have not been able to go live still, but I will go ahead and record this and then post it myself. And although the soul is eternal, so comment about the nature of the soul. And this was what I was planning to say, but I didn't get around to it because I kept getting cut off so many times. So as my cell phone was resetting, I had a little more about the Buddhist idea here. And I think what I can say is that we do have extraterrestrial sources of information which shed some light on this question about reincarnation. And perhaps the most important one of all those that I've read is that, and we might think about the mind, but actually there are different aspects of the self. And according to some extraterrestrial sources at least, there is both an eternal in the past aspect of the self, and there is an aspect of the self that comes into existence at a certain point. So I'm just going to say my understanding about one of these issues is that the original self, in the teachings, Atta or Atma, in the Hindu teachings. That is our spirit. I'd never considered before, but what we call eternal hell or eternal damnation may simply actually be the condition in which the soul, which is an individual conscious being, becomes so repelled by the very idea of God and so angry at God that it wants to go into non-existence, and so that is allowed. Anyway, that's one idea that I learned of from extraterrestrial sources that I'd never considered before, because usually about the damnation or eternal salvation of the soul, but the fact that the soul might end, so that actually is specifically stated in, for example, the Urantia book and other extraterrestrial sources, that there are these different aspects, or 3 or 4 or 5 more, many different aspects of the self, but at least some of them, or one of them, is eternal from the past. First makes a moral choice, or we can say one past and eternal in the future, and the other that it began at a certain time in the past and continues, or at least can continue eternally in the future. And then for those two, there's also this idea that the soul can actually go into a state of non-existence somehow, if one is so set against God. Of the soul, reborn on this planet or in heaven or hell, more maybe complex is the wrong word, but there are many aspects of the self that we have not really explored very much, or teachers, religious, spiritual teachers, have not talked about very much. And the most puzzling of all of these differences, many a birth I wandered in samsara. So this samsara, this is the concept of cycles of birth and death. But the more interesting thing is, where did that come from? So the Buddha is here saying that he sought for lifetimes to understand what is the, as he calls it here, the builder of the house. The house, of course, means this body. So what is the cause of the existence of this body? And he says, sorrowful it is. Sorrowful is it to be born again and again. So the Buddha's teaching is that there are many lives, which itself is painful for both the mother and the baby, by diseases and anxieties, and then by old age, and when he achieved the awakened state, or realized, as he says in the next verse, that is enlightened, realized the cause of this suffering, the cause of shutting out all external sense objects, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence. The transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So, is the result of, or is accompanied by, becoming free from desire and fear and anger. So attachment of liberation from, or freedom from desire, fear, and anger by controlling the mind, the senses, and the anger, shutting out all external sense objects, keep the eyes and vision concentrated between the eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostrils, and thus control, and the intelligence. So these are all different aspects of the self. It's actually much more complex than that. And we can try to study and understand this further. What are these different aspects of the self? One which may be eternal in the past and eternal in the future, and others which are